Well, good evening and welcome to the Pullman City Council meeting for this Tuesday, November 14th. And if you've been listening, we have a live wire council session here today. So that's because of the Girl Scouts, and we'll be hearing from them here in a few minutes. First of all, Dee, would you please take roll?
Mayor Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Benjamin.
Present.
Councilmember Dubin.
Here.
Councilmember Guido.
Here.
Councilmember McCall. Councilmember Parks. Councilmember Weber.
Present.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
We were notified that both Eileen McCall and Ann Parks could not be here tonight. Do I hear a motion to excuse?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Announcements tonight, we have a number of them. First of all, I want to thank Avista for responding to the gas break that was not caused by Avista and trying to deal with 37,000 customers in the Palouse region and the LC Valley. The break was caused by a farmer, and that's now under investigation by the Utilities Commission. But the pipeline was owned by Williams. Avista purchased natural gas from Williams, just like we purchased natural gas from Avista. And they brought in over 500 employees and mutual aid people. We had people from North Dakota and Wyoming and all over the place that came here to help out, just like Avista sends people to help out when other areas have major issues. It was a massive task. They're still addressing some of the issues right now. Some people were not at home when they came and knocked on the door, and they will be coming back. And so from that point on, I know that I have lived in communities that had different utility companies that were not as responsive as Avista was, and I just want to commend them again. And Paul Kimmel, who's our business agent locally, who is keeping us informed. He appeared at all our emergency management meetings every morning, and I just want to thank Paul and Avista for doing it. When I was driving to Spokane this morning for meetings, about 6:30, I was watching about 4 or 5 Avista trucks coming in, probably from Avista, either in Spokane or Coeur d'Alene. We finally got relit on Sunday evening, and they came from Coeur d'Alene to do that. So again, it's now under investigation. We did file a state of emergency. That was notified to the state. And Sean Miller, who is our economics development person, is looking into different ways that we might be able to help businesses, but we're still doing research on that, so that's still out there. Also, I'd like to congratulate some of my colleagues in this council for their recent election. Ann Parks, who could not be here tonight, Nathan Weller, Pat Wright, and Fred Benjamin, who was elected mayor. I want to make sure that's very clear. It's January 1st he becomes mayor. I had a few people at basketball games say, yeah, you're on it. No, I said, I'm there till December 31st at 11:59 p.m. And maybe I'll shut off my cell phone for the first time in 20 years. So we'll see what happens on that. Other announcements tonight: sealed bids are to be received by the city up to 10 o'clock on Thursday, November 30th. That's for the downtown and Pullman bid, and that will take place here in the council chambers. The city's leaf collection is still going on. You can go to our main website, and that goes on until November 22nd. Pullman Senior Center is offering a delicious Thanksgiving meal on Friday, November 17th at noon. You can contact them to find out exactly how much it costs and how you do that. Food for Pullman is conducting their third annual Thanksgiving meal giveaway and food drive this year at the Pullman Senior Center, and that'll be the day before Thanksgiving, and that'll be on November 22nd from 1:30 to 5:30. For more information, you can go online to foodforpullman.com. That's coming from Rob Larson, who used to be an employee with here, and he started that about 3 years ago and really found a need, and a lot of people donate to that and also take advantage of that. So we want to make sure you know about it. Again, it's going to take place at the Pullman Senior Center the day before Thanksgiving. We also issued a proclamation, Small Business Saturday, and since we're not going to be meeting until that point, City of Pullman celebrates with our local small businesses and their contributions they make to our local economy and community. And whereas, according to the U.S. Small Business Administration, there are 33.2 million small businesses in the United States. Small business represents about 99% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for about 63% of net new jobs created since 1995. Small businesses employ about 46% of the employees in the private sector of the United States. Whereas 68 cents of every dollar spent in the small business in the United States stays in the local community. And every dollar spent at a small business creates an additional 48 cents in local business activity as a result of employees and local businesses purchasing local goods and service. So therefore, as mayor of the city of Pullman, I, Glenn Johnson, do hereby proclaim November 25th to be Small Business Saturday. Urge residents to visit your small businesses. And those are the announcements. Now we go to item number 2 on the announcements on your agenda, and that is about the declaration of emergency that I issued on Wednesday. And our incident commander and fire chief, Mike Heston.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. So that day we found out with the about the gas break. It was in the county, so our department wasn't involved, but we were in contact with Paul Kimball right away from Avista and learned what the scope of this could be. So Mr. Urban and I got together with the police chief as well, and we started putting together our incident management team for the city, and then we want to have the mayor declare a state of emergency for us because we had no idea what the scope of this would be, how long it would last, because we weren't getting any information just yet from Avista what was going on. Open up any opportunities for recovering any costs that we can incur over the time frame. So that was our goal at the time to do that. So mayor was available, we got that put out, and we got it declared. So not quite sure what it totally opens up for us, but allows us to do that as well. And then we got all of the WSU emergency management team as well as the county emergency management, and the county emergency management put up to the state as well in what they didn't do a declaration like this, but however Bill Tensfeld did that to open that as well. So we just want to make sure we did our part just in case we had to recoup some costs, and I'll open it up for businesses and everything else. So that was our plan of attack.
And by doing the declaration of emergency, if we had purchased things, we wouldn't have to go out to bid. We could do it with established people that we work with. So that's also a reason. So at this point, we'd like the council to ratify the emergency declaration, if there's such a motion.
Move to ratify.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And thank you very much,
Yeah, thank you.
Mike, and thank you for your leadership. Next under presentations tonight, the Washington State Girl Scouts. We have Brian Newberry and some scouts here. You've probably seen them here a little bit earlier. And it's always great when the Girl Scouts come and brighten up a council session.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mayor, I'll tell you what, I think there was a future mayor here in the room, too, so that's good stuff here. I'm Brian Newberry. I'm the CEO of this great council of Eastern Washington in northern Idaho. Yeah, just stand right there. Perfect, perfect. And we do have the leaders galore here with us, 2 daisies here of your great council. You know what, Mayor, over the last month or so, I've visited probably about coming on maybe 20 different city councils just to celebrate the Day of the Girl. That came out last month. It was a UN resolution 12 years ago, and it basically, girls, it said, you know what, you girls rock, and that you have a voice in this world, and you matter, and we need to listen to you. And so we've been doing that over this area. Well, I ended up seeing that this is your last term, and I have known you, sir, since I moved to this state in 2012 to become the Fairchild Air Force Base commander up in Spokane. And when I first met you, you were doing a veteran event, and I was so incredibly impressed with your heart for veterans. And I walked away saying, what an incredible person. And then I said, he's got a great radio voice. And someone said to me, you know what, you might want to just listen to the radio once in a while, and you might actually hear him there. So, Mayor, it's just worth the drive through fall tonight to hear your voice again. I just celebrate what you've done for this area, and I celebrate you, sir. And leadership matters, and your leadership has mattered. So I came down here to say goodbye and to thank you for all that you've done. Hopefully it's not the last time I see you, but I know in official capacity it is. Congratulations to the new mayor-elect, and thank you to all you city council members for all that you do here. You do this for them. You do this for these Girl Scouts. And here just 2 months ago, we hit 4,000 Girl Scouts, which is the most we've had since I first met you back in 2013. So, Mayor, I left you some sticks up here. I always contribute to your weight challenges, and so I'm sorry about that.
It's all right.
But
I'll
in
work it
that
off.
bag
I'll work it off. I promise.
is a tin that says "Peace Out, Girl Scout," and I appreciate your city clerk helping me be part of this effort tonight. But it says "Peace Out, Girl Scout." So I just wanted to say to you, "Peace out, Girl Scout." And then I think our Girl Scouts have one more thing to say here. Just a second, girls. 1, 2, 3. Go, girls!
Hey, way to go.
So, hey, real quick, just to let this go just a little bit more, they're finishing up one of their democracy pedals here. It's one of their daisy things. So I'm going to turn it to them. They do have the best voice here. And to the lady city councilwomen I didn't get to, I have a couple patches for you. So, Girl Scouts, you ready to do this? And remember what the city administrator said. You have to eat the mic.
Our Daisy group wants to help make the world a better place. We all came up with ideas and voted on which one we thought could help the most. So I 1, 2, 3. That grass. So it's Leona. We want to ask to have more places and parks so we grow plants instead of grass, and this is why. So we should plant more plants because you have to do a lot more work to take grass and plants. And lawnmowers use gas, which is bad for the planet. You don't have to mow plants, but you do have to mow grass, and that takes a lot of responsibility. When you mow, you use gas. It puts carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. It can trap more heat from the sun, and that will make the ice at the poles, and that will melt the ice at the poles, and that will make the sea levels rise, and that will make floods. So using gas leads to floods. When the earth gets too hot, it can also cause droughts when there isn't enough water. But growing grass uses a lot of water. Mowing grass also hurts a lot of bugs that live in the grass. Grass doesn't get pollinated, but plants with flowers do, and that can make honey. And honey is a type of medicine, and it's delicious. Wildflower beautiful. We think that in our city parks, so instead of grass, we can plant plants and wildflowers that are native to the Palouse. Then you won't have to water them as much because they get enough water from the rain here and not just people. If we plant plants that are native to Pullman, it can help the pollinators who live here to find food, and then they can help pollinate our food. Also, we love bees because honey is delicious. We love honey. Okay, now what you think? Thank you very much.
There you go. Leona and Maven, thank you, City Administrator, for helping with that. Thank you again, Dee. And Ms. Mayor, don't we need more Girl Scouts in this world?
We certainly do.
They certainly do.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time tonight. I've done several times. We've never had a City Council help complete a Girl Scout badge. So
All right.
you all rock. Thank you again. God bless you all.
And thank you for your service, too. We appreciate it. All right. With that, we now move to the next presentation tonight. We have the Associated Students of Washington State University. And so great to have them here. I know we've been working skills trying to get everybody in at the same time, but I think Sebastian's going to probably start it off. At least that's what I have on the format. So we'll go from there. And if you want to change in the middle, go right ahead.
Good. Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you, Council. First of all, really hard job to have to follow up the Girl Scouts of America. Ladies, I can't wait to vote. Even though you're leaving, I can't wait to vote for one of you for mayor one day, Pullman. But yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. So for the record, my name is Sebastian Sanders, Director of Community Affairs for ASWSU. I'm going to try to eat the mic, I promise. I just have to bend over a little bit. But before I get into the meeting, we do have a lot. We are less fun than Girl Scouts of America, but I'm really grateful that we're allowed to be here because this is a meeting that is really important to the students. But before we do that, if you could all, if you wouldn't mind and join me in a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are meeting today as members of a community which stand on the traditional homeland of the Palouse Band of indigenous people and the ceded lands of the Nez Perce tribe. We further acknowledge their presence here since time immemorial and recognize their continuing connection to the land, to the water, and to their ancestors. Thank you. Before I get into our agenda, I have plenty of thanks. Thank you to Mayor Johnson for having me. Thank you to the council people that are willing to sit through students. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks so much, Mike Urban, who has been such an important partner in making sure this meeting happened and making sure that you all have the information that you need for this to be productive. Also, students of WSU, just wanted to reverberate our thanks towards Avista. This has been such an unprecedented emergency in the last couple of years in Pullman, and at least us as students, we're grateful that WSU was able to provide a warming station with the Cub, and I know that plenty of community members took advantage of that. But I just want to thank a bunch of people that are in this room with working with me and working with our communications department to making sure that as many students possible knew when their heat was going to be restored. So thank you, Avista. Thank you to everybody in this room. But let's get started. If you're unfamiliar with this meeting, this is something that's supposed to happen every year. There's supposed to be something like this in the fall where ASWSU, we come to you, and then in the spring, you come to us in the Cub. And so this meeting is essentially supposed to serve as a bit of an update as far as what ASWSU is doing, giving you the concerns that students bring to all of us, and then kind of we see it as a dialogue. We see it as a dialogue because we operate in tandem. The students of Pullman, the students of WSU, because most of us are residents of Pullman because we all occupy space in Pullman. And so the things that matter to students should hopefully matter to you as well, which I know they do. Before I get started, I would just like to take a second and mention all of the wonderful ASWSU representatives that are here. With my executive staff, right here, I have our Vice President, Maccabee Werndorf. Sitting next to him, I have our President, Luke Deshane, who you will be hearing from both of them today. Sitting next is our Deputy Director of Diversity, Inclusion, and Veterans Affairs, Jojo Maestas. And then I have our Director of Legislative Affairs, Colin Bannister, our Deputy Director, one of them, Sav Eakin, our Deputy Director of Campus Sustainability, Cassandra Vocal. Behind there, our Director of Campus Health and Safety, that's probably wrong, that's what I call you, so you can tell me later, Bryce Becker. Next to him, we have our Director of Communications, Cooper Howe. And then next to him, we have a lot of people, we're almost done, I swear. Next to him is our Deputy Director of Student Affairs, right? Or University Affairs, excuse me, Sophia Schnell. And then finally, our last Deputy Director of Legislative Affairs, Dylan Sementik. Somebody who could not be here is our Chief of Staff, Bailey Berger. I wish that she was here because she really does make our whole team run, but something happened. And in the back, if you guys could raise your hand, I have a couple members from our, I forgot about, I'm sorry. That's why I told you to sit up here. But anyways, I have our Deputy Director of Communications. And then those three lovely ladies right there are members of our ASWSU Senate, which we can get into later. Phew, okay, so how this is gonna go, I tried my best to provide all of you with an agenda of the topics that we will be talking about today, and I will be going through just topics that are under my purview, and I'll be passing it off to my president and my vice president to report on the rest of ASWSU. This is intentionally supposed to serve as a dialogue, but for brevity's sake, I encourage questions and communication to be at the end because what's most important is that we get through this long list that I provided, and then afterwards, if there are questions or any concerns, I encourage you to contact me. Mike has all of our contact information, or at least he has mine, and if there's any questions that myself or my president or my vice president cannot answer today, I will do my best to get you the best possible answer as soon as possible. So, without further ado, I am going to get started with myself, the Department of Community Affairs. Myself, Sebastian, I serve as the liaison between the students of WSU and the community of Pullman, this lovely, lovely city. I've lived here since I was 17 when I moved from Spokane, so I have a better taste of the good part of Eastern Washington. And I have a couple of areas that I am very interested in. Let's start with this first one, which is public transit and transportation needs. Obviously, students have a unique situation when it comes to traversing Pullman. I know that at least in the last couple of years, Pullman has been taking really great bounds to increasing not just our access to, our expansion of our bus system and our public transit system, which, by the way, PSU and Pullman, our conjunct transit system that we have, is one of the most impressive in the state. I talk to them all the time, but our transit system serve per capita more students than any other university in the state. And because of that, we need to be able to serve them the needs that they bring to us. So when it comes to needs, obviously we're working to expand express routes, which are primarily the routes that serve students that go between apartment land and campus and then around our campus. But something that I really would like, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. I really do encourage you to take notes because I am going to talk about a lot, and I don't want to waste a lot of your time. But anyways, we are working to expand that. Well, I mean, I can't really say much, but not a lot has been done in the last couple of years as far as expanding routes and public transit specifically for students. And so I'm proud to say that everybody in this room on behalf of ASWSU is working very hard every day to make sure student funds are being appropriated in a way that they can see and in a way that makes their life easier. Because we're tiptoeing into like a fog of WSU right now. You know, we don't know what's coming, right? And we want to make sure that students are supported. So saying that, how this is relevant to you, is if there are any concerns that you think that would also benefit the Pullman area greater, because I know that it just kind of sounds like I'm speaking for students and trying to get people to class, right? But if there's a problem that concerns a Pullman resident for transit, I would really like to hear about that and make sure that WSU Transit understands that issue. Moving on from transportation, one of my biggest, I'm missing a page of my notes. That's okay. I don't need it. One of my biggest concerns about bringing this up is housing and the existing housing stock that we have in Pullman. It's not any news that that any college town has a very interesting problem of being able to house the many new students that we get every year, and a lot of the housing is very volatile. But something that students have brought up as a concern is that we need to make it a priority to preserve our existing housing stock that exists primarily in the College Hill neighborhood. I serve as the College Hill Association, so maybe I'm a bit biased, but we have a lot of awesome history in Pullman, a lot of awesome buildings, preserve that history. And a lot of what students' concerns are is how do we be creative with addressing our housing struggle by incentivizing existing housing stock rather than new developments, right? Because if we're going on a task of sustainability and affordability, every single time the existing building is more sustainable and cheaper. So kind of seeing if there's a way that at least I can work, because once again, housing is kind of like my forte. If there's a way that I can work with the relevant people and be in those conversations about preserving the unique buildings we have in Pullman, I'd be very interested in having that conversation. The reason why I bring this up is because I believe it was 2 months ago or somewhere around there, the Moose's Lodge in downtown Pullman was taken down, and it's replaced by a parking lot now. Obviously, this is not something that one of you just like put a stamp on and they're like, yes, take down this building, right? But I'd be really interested if any of you have time to speak about how that decision is made, so that way in the future when we're placed with these kind of tough decisions of what do we do with our existing housing stock or any sort of building, that student input is in there, because I would hate to see a bunch of parking lots popping up around Pullman. Speaking about walkability and micromobility, part of my job is making sure that Pullman is a pedestrian paradise, a walker's paradise. So I'm happy with my work that I do with the College Hill Association, doing a walk audit. Some of the people in this room are present for that, so thank you for coming to that and walking in the rain. It was awesome. But making sure that Pullman going forward is a place that's welcome to not just cars, but also people with bikes and people with legs. Over the summer, I would just like to extend my thanks to the city engineers and their work with the Complete Streets project. That's been amazing. And this summer, we took great efforts with the additions on Merman and that protected path. Students have brought up that a shared pathway is different than a protected pathway. A shared pathway is when you're driving and you see the paint of the bike, and it's almost like saying we're allowed to ride our bike on that. Any steps that we can take to ensuring that bikes and pedestrians are protected as possible from vehicles. And in that way, if bikes are protected, then pedestrians are protected as well. So going forward, students are very concerned with that. My last step, and then you can stop listening to me for today. Thank you so much for sitting through everything that I have to say. WSU and WSU students are extremely interested in the relationship that the city has with our Pullman disposal service. My deputy director, not my deputy director, but the deputy director of campus sustainability and I have been in many different conversations and meetings with Pullman Disposal Service, Whitman County Landfill, and WSU Waste Management to kind of see what's going on with the trash here. You're going to learn later about some initiatives that people are taking to try to clean up Pullman, which is great. But our main concern, of course, is with recycling, primarily glass recycling. As many of you are familiar, probably, in 2017, an act made it so glass recycling was not something that was necessarily prioritized in Pullman. And this is true if you look at our brown receptacles. That's what that's called. Our brown receptacles, a lot of them, they still say that you can recycle glass. When it comes to Pullman Disposal Service, when we ask why this is, it's primarily because oftentimes glass is really hard, and we don't have the infrastructure here to get glass safely to the west side. Because when you look at places like WSU Waste Management, they sort their recycling, and so they have a literal person, if you've never been in there, they have a literal person digging through the recycled material, pulling out an aluminum can, pulling out a plastic bottle, and things like that. Pullman Disposal Service doesn't have that, right? So it's unrealistic to expect them to be able to sort everything, and that's not what we're asking. We're kind of wondering if there was a way that ASWSU could work together to make sure that students receive the correct information regarding recycling. The one concern that I brought up earlier is that there are plenty of receptacles that still say that glass is able to be thrown in this receptacle. If you do throw that in there, then it ruins a lot of the recycled material. There are people in this room that are students that have been fined because their box still says that it's okay to throw glass in there. And we recognize that this is a barrier, but I do think that everybody in the room wants to commit to promoting the health of our earth. And I think that it starts with being crystal clear with recycling and making it something that students can all partake in, because we are a big population here and a lot of us are confused. Not to mention, it also costs money to recycle glass in Pullman, which is a barrier, but that can be a conversation for another day because we are not unique in that. Recycling glass is really hard. Anyways, that's all that I have about recycling, and that's really all that I have for me. So thanks for listening to me. I'm going to pass it off to my president, Luke Duchesne, who is going to do his best to succinctly describe some of the other initiatives that our wonderful executive staff and our ASWSU Senate is working on. Thank you so much. I've been Sebastian.
Yeah, good evening. Oh, wow, you do have to eat the mic, huh? Good evening, Mayor Johnson, City Council members. Thank you so much for allowing us the time to speak. As Sebastian said, this is something that was started years ago, but I think somewhat died off over the COVID pandemic, and I'm glad that it was reintroduced. I originally served in Sebastian's role, although he has more than filled my shoes this year and gone above and beyond what I accomplished. But I kind of half-heartedly, I don't want to say half-heartedly, but last minute I was able to make this happen on our campus last spring, and I thought that was great, and I'm glad that we were able to come back and join you all here. So my name is Luke Duchesne. I'm ASWC president. As I said, I was in the Director of Community Affairs role last year, and then I ran with my Vice President, Maccabee Warndorf, last spring, and I was elected to this position. In this position, it's obviously different than what I was used to from last year, and it's more of a overall outlook on ASWSU, on the executive staff, and just on WSU in general. I spent a lot of my time sitting on committees, in different meetings, working with administration, and trying to bridge the gap between our executive staff and the administration and the general student body and kind of make everything flow and work together as a whole. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about our legislative agenda because we thought that was very relevant for this group to hear. And then I'm also going to talk about some of our health and safety initiatives, and then we'll pass it on to Maccabee. But just to start off with our legislative items, so myself, I sit on I guess I'm a voting member in our SGC team, and SGC stands for Student Government Council, and we work with all the various WSU campuses, so we're collaborating with the Vancouver campus, the Everett campus, Spokane, Tri-Cities, and the primary topic that we discuss is legislative items because when we attend Coug Day in January, we go as a system rather than just a campus, so we're bringing students from all the different campuses. So we meet and we discuss and vote on legislative agenda, which I will get into shortly. And then also beyond that, WSU Pullman is also a member of the WSA, which is the Washington Student Association, and I am a voting member on the board of directors for that as well. And the Washington Student Association brings together different campuses, different colleges from across the state. So WSU Pullman, a couple of our other WSU satellite campuses, UW, I'm blanking, TCC, Central Washington University, Western Washington University. We all come together, and as a collective, we decide on what are the biggest pressing issues of students of higher education in general, kind of statewide, and that way we're able to work and support each other in our lobbying efforts throughout the year. So now to specifically get into our legislative items and some of the things on our agenda this year, I'd say it's no question that the most important thing for college students of today's age is affordability and accessibility. So the first topic that we've been hammering on for years in the past, and we're going to continue to work on this year, is the Washington College Grant. Right now, it's currently sitting at 65% of the median family income. So what that means is that if your family is at 65% of the median family income in Washington, you receive a full tuition grant for WSU. And a couple ways that we've talked about tackling this is by either increasing the MFI, so whether that be 70%, somewhere in the middle, but essentially making it more affordable for students of low income to attend college. Another way that we've looked at addressing this is by flattening the MFI curve. And I don't know the exact details on this, but from my understanding, at 65%, you get a full tuition waiver, but if you're just a couple percentages over that, it drops off drastically the amount of aid that you receive. So I'm not exactly sure what that looked like, and I would like to direct questions to our wonderful Director of Legislative Affairs, Bannister, because he knows much more about that, and he worked deliberately on that last session when he was in Olympia. So he can answer some more details about that. Moving on, though, we are also going to be working on the Basic Needs Act, which would essentially provide navigators or resources for students to be directed to other resources that meet their basic needs on campus. And so we are going to be working on fully funding this so that way students have access to all the basic needs that allow them to get through their day, whether it be shelter, clean drinking water, plenty of food. And the hope in this is that it would shift students from relying on local support in the city of Pullman to more so relying on university support and ensuring that they're able to focus on being a student rather than meeting those basic needs that they have to do just to get through their day. And then also, in general, we're working hard on supporting undocumented students on our campus, whether this be through legislation or just general support. We're doing whatever we can to make it a more welcoming environment at WSU and in higher education in general for undocumented students, or also when it comes to work authorization after school. That's something that we're looking into, so that way it benefits students not only during the time on campus, but as they graduate and go and become members of the workforce in Washington State. And then finally, something that's kind of on our radar but not explicitly on our legislative agenda would be addressing some of the housing issues that Sebastian mentioned, which would be a cap on the rent increase. So not necessarily a cap on the total amount of rent, but on the percentage that rent can increase each year for students. And like I said, it's not on our agenda, but that's something that's on our radar, because I'd say if you ask any student at WSU Pullman that is not living on campus, one of their biggest, well, honestly, if they're living on campus as well, one of their biggest struggles is affording rent. Just because in college towns, when there's limited supply and consistent demand, it's always going to be expensive. So that's something that we're looking into as well. So that's it for legislative agenda items, and now we'll move into some health and safety items. So one of the first things that we've been thinking about, and honestly been thinking about this since McAfee and I ran last spring, is telehealth and mental health overall for students. One thing that our Director of Health Safety, Bryce Becker, has been working on is a first-year program that would essentially incorporate a mental health program, is the only good word to say for it, but it incorporate education surrounding mental health and essentially how to take care of yourself as you enter college, because I think throughout the pandemic, we've seen students that are less campus ready, and WSU can do their best to be student ready for students that are coming, but if students aren't prepared to address the workload that comes with college, maybe they're working jobs outside of college, how to take care of their physical health as well, That's something that we're working on in creating an education system so that way students are able to have a sound mind as they go throughout their day and able to focus on, as I said, being a student and accomplishing their goal of ultimately making it to graduation. Another thing that WCU's been big on, I'm not exactly sure what year this was piloted, but WCU provides Narcan trainings, which is a reactionary drug that stops overdose. And another thing that our wonderful Director of Health and Safety has been working hard on and actually accomplished already is we are now pairing those Narcan trainings with fentanyl testing strips so that rather than a reactionary drug, we are trying to be proactive about it and prevent overdoses from happening in the first place. So we partnered with the Whitman County Health Department, and I would also like to direct specific questions to Bryce himself as he knows the entire process and how it was completely accomplished. But we worked hard. He worked very hard on providing these fentanyl testing strips, and it's finally accomplished, and they're on campus now, and they'll be provided at those Narcan trainings moving forward. And then finally, this has been a multi-year process, but we've been working, and our advisor has been working hard on providing a wellness kiosk. This is something that's been introduced on many different campuses. It's already at UW Seattle, and we've been in communication with them as well as how they made it happen. And this kiosk would contain emergency contraception, over-the-counter drugs like Advil or allergy drugs, stuff like that. So that's just another way that we can provide access for students that may not be able to drive to a pharmacy or drive to a store that offers those. They're able to access it on campus within walking distance from wherever they may be living. So that's everything I have. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to pass it on to Maccabee now, and you can talk about the center a little bit. But yeah, it's great to see some familiar faces, and thank you once again.
Hello. Sorry, well, I really get down. This keeps getting taller as we go. But a little bit. All right, I'll project. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members, for having us here today. If I have not met you, my name is Maccabee Warndorf, and I'm the ASWSU Vice President. Prior to being the Vice President, I served 2 terms as the Carson College Business Center on the ASWSU Senate. And I'm currently a 5th-year double major in accounting and finance. As Vice President, I chair the ASWSU Senate, which is made up of 23 senators, 21 senators, 2 delegates. And I basically serve as the liaison between the Senate and the executive staff. So I'll just sort of share, I know we talked about our legislative and our community efforts, just some of the things that we're focusing on directly on campus besides just the day-to-day running of the student government. So the first thing on the list would be food insecurity. It seems like that is a priority to our student body. So to combat this issue, we have the Cougar Food Pantry, which is located in the Cub, which is the student union building. And last year at SNA, Service and Activities Fee Committee, we provide allocations to allow both graduate and undergraduate students access to the food pantry. And then on top of that, so that's something that we sort of did on like an administrative side, but our amazing Director of Community Affairs, wherever he right there, has been very proactive about tackling the issue of food insecurity. And currently right now, he's spearheading the Lend a Hand, Give a Can food drive. So last week, we had volunteers mostly made up of ASWSU, but it is a collective effort between, GPSA, ASWSU, and I believe it initially was a part of the Department of Crop and Soil Sciences. They were the ones that have been kind of keeping it going, and everyone else was helping them, so Sebastian did an awesome job of meeting with them and getting everything set up for that. But basically last week, we went around to a bunch of different houses in Pullman, I think geographically spread everywhere, and put bags on people's doors with little notes saying, we're doing this food drive. And then we have over 20 volunteers next 2 days, this Thursday, going around all of Pullman and picking up cans. And our overall goal is to collect over 1,000 pounds of food that would help stock the Cougar Food Pantry. Honestly, we're just looking to help out more and take some of the burden off of students in that sense. If you have a brown bag on your door or in front of your door, feel free to throw some cans in there and we will be by Thursday to grab it. A little bit moving on past food insecurity. Obviously, declined enrollment is another pressing issue on the Pullman campus. Obviously, it affects not only the student body and the university, but it's going to be affecting the city of Pullman and you all, as there's, Sebastian's already talked about, pretty enmeshed in some of our auxiliaries with the city. But yeah, most of what we do is centered around student fees. Pays for everything that we do. And it, sorry. But yeah, most of our term actually has been focused around ways of increasing these fees or maintaining service without putting an undue burden on students. So yeah, we've been spending a lot of time meeting with TAG, which I assume you will be hearing from at some point. I serve on TAG, as well as the SRE, which is Student Recreation Center, and the CUB. Those are all hurting because they are almost completely funded by student dollars. But yeah, so we're really just trying to find ways that we can really get the communication out there to students that costs have been rising, enrollment's declining, and we need to be able to hold up our end and pay for these things, or they're just going to keep losing hours. I honestly think this year we're sort of getting a little bit closer to that as students are starting to see the cuts, like the Chinook does not open until 7 a.m., as well as there's just small cuts that are kind of hitting everything. But yeah, and honestly, I don't know how we're going to tackle that. We're doing our best to just do our job and bring everything back. One thing I'd say, since I'm a fifth year, I was here pre-pandemic, and this is sort of the first year that things are starting to come back to normal on campus in the sense of how they feel. I know we were in person last year, and it's just different now. I mean, starting out, we have the entire ASWSU, but Senate, Exec, and Judicial Board is completely filled already, which is something that has not happened since the pandemic. So it's looking promising. Honestly, I mean, we're not gonna be able to control the enrollment trends of the entire country, but we're doing our best and really looking to hear if y'all have any suggestions or questions about that. But yeah, and last, just before I open up the floor, or give it back to Sebastian, I guess, I'll just run over some initiatives that our senators are working on that are mostly gonna be like external, and these will probably impact some of what y'all do. So we have a senator from the Murrow College who is working on legislation to call for an increase in disposal cans on College Hill. I believe she's a resident of College Hill and in Greek Row area, and has just noticed there's been an increase in litter and garbage, and she wants to work on creating more trash receptacles. We have another senator who's working on repairs to Orchard Drive behind the UREC. And then, although Luke already talked about this on the exec side, there has been just a general mental health awareness and resources, really communicating to students what's going on. And yeah, one of the only resolutions as of now that has been passed through the Senate is a call for divestment of fossil fuels, stating that the Senate is in support of that. I don't really know how much that relates to your daily business, but it is just something to keep on the radar. But yeah, and if you want any more information about these initiatives, reach out to my and/or Sebastian, and we can get you connected with the senators that are directly working on the legislation. But yeah, thank you again for having us here, and I'll pass it back to Sebastian.
Maccabee, I don't know if you saw the big smile on our city administrator, because as soon as you mentioned accounting, yeah, those finance people like to stick together. So
Proud Carson grad.
yeah, okay.
Okay, just as fun as Girl Scouts, right? Thank you so much. Before I open the floor, I understand that we have an agenda of very important things. So if there are pressing questions, please feel free to ask. If there's anything that you feel warrants more of a conversation and more of a dialogue, like I said, Mike will have my contact info, and I can get you every single person here. I just want to underscore every single person here that is on behalf of ASWSU is an expert in their field, right? They are an expert in serving students. They have undertook this role, and as somebody who's gone to school here for the last 4 years, and I've witnessed ASWSU, and I didn't join ASWSU because I wasn't really familiar with their game, working with this team has been fantastic. And so I urge you, at least with me, because you see, I've seen a lot of you, but if you haven't seen me, you're going to see a lot more of me, because Pullman has a very unique place in my heart. Same thing for all these students. So thank you for your time. If there are any pressing questions.
I think what we can do is just do some quick questions, but again, with the contact information, I think we can follow up on that.
Of course.
So Becky, did you?
Well, I guess what I'd like to say, first of all, is thank you all so much for coming, and not just for showing up, but showing up the way that you have. So prepared, so committed, so passionate. I recognize it, and I think it's so important, and I'm really super appreciative of that. I think there's a lot of things that probably need follow-up and deeper conversations. But just quickly, the lend a hand, give a can, that's food security. If members of the city wanted to, residents of the city wanted to participate and we didn't get a brown bag on our door, is there some coordinated effort? I would love to get that out more, and I'd love to see that pantry just well stocked, and that students feel that love not only from the ASWSU and the GPSA, but from the community as well.
Thank you for asking. Yeah, if anybody in here did not get a bag on their door, I apologize. We did pass out bags to over 800 houses in Pullman, and I wish that I could do more. But if you didn't receive a bag, there is a drop box in front of the Parks and Recreation office in this building that will be collecting. Is it not in this building?
Next building.
Ah,
B.
in this parking lot. That will be accepting donations until 9 a.m. on Friday, which is when we will, by the way, forgot to mention, these donations will be split equally between the Cougar Food Pantry and the Community Act Center. So, yeah, thanks for the question.
Francis?
Great, thank you. And that was one of my questions I had. 3 items just touch base on with the walkability for the town gown. We are working on safe routes for college. That app will be ready probably, we figure, in February to be able to start testing where we want to gather the data where all the walking routes are, so we can then start systematically working through all those routes to improve the safety of them. So that's something we definitely want ASWSU partnered with us on. The second one, I've definitely enjoyed working with the legislative team as you have been crafting yours, and then I've been working with you on strategies and stuff. I'm definitely excited for the partnership that we have in that way. It's really good. And then the last one, just as you were talking about the Narcan piece, from the university side on the safety committee, we've actually worked and developed protocols so that we can include Narcan in our first aid kits for the departments, along with training also. So that's one of the pieces that we're working from the university departments to be able to include the Narcan piece.
Students are going to be really happy to hear that. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming, and I think you are all to be celebrated for the fact that WSU and the city of Pullman stand head and shoulders above most universities in the country for having this relationship. And I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. I know when this first started, it's something that we wanted to continue. I've worked both directly and indirectly with ASWSU, and I have absolutely nothing but respect for all of you and the time and the work that you put into what you're doing. I would invite the 3 of you, Luke and Mac and you, Sebastian, to check with me after the meeting, because I have some information that I'd like to share with you in regard to both the food piece as well as the accessibility and affordability on the tuition side. Mm-hmm. So there's some different groups that I work with that are very involved with that. I'd like to kind of open up that access to you. So let's chat a little bit after. And again, thank you all for coming. And in next week, I guess it is. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Nathan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sebastian, I just have to say thank you so much for the walking tour in the rain, College Hill Association. It was a great time hearing everything and taking those routes that I haven't taken for a while. I also think it's important to recognize, ASWSU's focus on mental health is so very important. When I went to WSU, it was more of a suck it up and carry on. And so I'm really, really glad that all of you have taken this on. As a QPR suicide prevention trainer myself, it's very important for all of you to look out for each other. I think another thing that should be said is thank you to the SRC. I had a chance to go there, and having that open, that is a part, mental and physical health, it's connected. And it's very important for that. And I might start going more. They actually have weights that, I'm glad heavier than Planet Fitness, so. And the Cub as well, the warming center. So I really appreciate what you did there. Lastly, I think it's important to ask, and I keep saying this year after year after year, because I'm one of the Ward 2 representatives, along with Councilmember Dubin, and soon to be Carla. And I feel it's important to continue to push WSU students to register here to vote. Whether you're here for 2 years or 4 years or 5 years, whatever you're here for, all of these things that you're talking about, the transit and everything like that, you have a voice. And I may be able to represent you. I'm 42. I don't have the same knowledge, expertise as any of you. And I hate to see such a powerful voting bloc not actually vote here. And when you're voting for the West Side or you're voting, East Coast, whatever, when your vote is not here, all of this stuff that you're talking about, it's a little bit more silent, because it's like how invested, you're invested here tonight, but you got to register to vote here because you're home here. So I just wanted to mention that, as has already been mentioned, the collaboration with ASWSU is so powerful. So thank you so much.
May I comment on that briefly?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Registered. I've been registered to vote here for 4 years. Go Pullman. But if my legislative department could raise their hand quick, they do fantastic work to try to make sure that students get registered in Pullman and for Pullman. But that being said, when I ran, that was an intention that I had, was we need more people to use their dorm address. Like, you live here. And so I appreciate that, because that is something that we think about, and that's something that those 3 people work hard on every single day.
And part 2 of that is when you leave town, make sure you change your address.
Yes.
Because otherwise,
Very true.
we are, as a city, we
Yeah.
pay for all those postage, and then they all return. So we want to make sure the two messages,
Pretend I
register,
said that,
but
yeah.
when you move, go on. Megan?
Make sure it's in the minutes.
Yeah. Megan, did you want any comments?
I applaud you for being participants in the process and getting this incredible experience. And I want to echo what Councilmember Weller said. It is important that you register to vote while you're here, so that you can be part of the process of the city that you live in. And yeah, best of luck with your future endeavors. It makes me feel good to know that we have these future folks to look to, and stay involved and try not to get too discouraged.
And we'll just do the contact with you later for that, because I know we have a full agenda here tonight too. So, but again, thank you all for being here, and you do not have to stay through the whole council meeting, because I know you also have some meetings to go to. And I can maybe tell you about 2 or 3 people that tried to pencil saving the Moose Lodge, and nothing would pencil out. And I was in that, and I was scared for my.
We have a number of items tonight. The first one is a motion to dispense with the reading of the October 24, 2023 meeting minutes and approve them as submitted. Item 2, a motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 202-30926 through 202-30985, totaling $788,924.69. Item 3, a motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 111596 through 111606, electronic transfers 131, 132, and 1071 through 1076, payroll direct deposits numbered 88747 through 89105, totaling $1,034,092.43. Item 4, a motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks number 200502 through 200566, totaling $143,628.04. Item 5, a motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks number 200567 through 200573, totaling $13,040.51. Item 6, a motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks number 200574 through 200633, totaling $8,328,525.31. Item 7, a motion to authorize staff to enter into a one-year contract with Locality Media, Inc. and their record management software for use at the fire department. Item 8, a motion to ratify the Main Street, Kamiakin Street traffic signal repair contract. Item 9, a motion to accept Main Street, Kamiakin Street traffic signal repair contract as complete. Item 10, a motion to authorize the finance director to open escrow account with U.S. Bank for the purpose of holding construction retaining fund for the new airport terminal project. Item 11, resolution number R-47-23, a resolution authorizing the execution of leases for each city-owned Guy Street property on the terms set forth for each property. Item 12, resolution number R-50-23, a resolution declaring certain property of the city of Pullman to be excess and surplus property and authorizing the means of disposal. Item 13, resolution number R-51-23, a resolution authorizing the execution of a memorandum of agreement relating to continue the Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee interagency agreement between the City of Pullman, the City of Moscow, Washington State University, the University of Idaho, Whitman County, and Latah County, extending the term to August 21, 2024. Item 14, resolution number R-52-23, a resolution accepting a waterline easement granted by James and Jean Logan, authorizing the execution of said easement and providing for other matters properly related thereto. And finally, resolution R-53-23, a resolution approving a 6-year transit development plan for calendar years 2023 through 2028 and 2022 annual report for Pullman Transit.
Is there any item the council would like on for discussion? Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of items 1 through 15. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, we now move to the regular agenda tonight. First of all is an ordinance fixing the amount of a tax levy for the year 2023 for collections for 2024 to raise revenue to meet estimated expenditures. And Jeff, our finance director, is here. Jeff Albright. Floor is yours.
Thank you, and evening. Last meeting, we met in preparation for setting the levy. The council had a chance to review revenues for next year as well as hold the public hearing. There was no public comment at that hearing, and since then I have not received any additional comments. So with that, I'm bringing forward the recommendation on both the regular levy for the city of Pullman as well as the EMS levy of the 1% increase as allowed by RCW.
Any questions of Jeff? So the first item before you is ordinance 2315. Do I hear a motion on this?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Move second. Would you read the ordinance ad?
Yes. Ordinance number 23-50, an ordinance fixing the amount of the tax levy for the year 2023 for collection in 2024 to raise revenue to meet estimated expenditures and establishing the special levy to meet general obligation bond debt service obligations.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Matter carries. Item number 2 is an ordinance fixing the amount for the emergency medical services. Any comments on that?
Oh, very similar, looking at the 1% by RCW.
Okay. Do I hear a motion on this ordinance?
Move to adopt ordinance number 23-16.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ad, would you read this ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 23-16, an ordinance fixing the amount of the emergency medical services tax levy for the year 2023 for collection in 2024 to raise revenue to meet estimated expenditures.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, we now adjourn the meeting of the City Council and we convene the meeting of the Special Metropolitan Parks District. We already have taken roll for the evening, so that is taken care of. First item of business is a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes for the Metropolitan Park District, October 24th. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Jeff, we need you up here for the resolution fixing the amount of property tax levy for the Metropolitan Park District.
So again, very similar to that, had the review of revenues last meeting and the public comments. We received no public comment on the Metro Park, and I received no additional comments since last meeting. So again, I'm bringing forward the recommendation to increase by the 1% as by our CW.
Do I hear a motion for this resolution?
Motion to approve.
Oh,
Do you want a
Motion
second?
to-
I think she got the approval. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Fan, please read the resolution, please.
Resolution number MPD-23-1, resolution fixing the amount of the property tax levy for the year 2023 for collection in 2024 to raise revenue to meet estimated expenditures of the Pullman Metropolitan Parks District.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, I'm adjourning the meeting of the Metropolitan Parks District and now convening the meeting of the Transportation Benefit District, a special meeting of that. And the first item is a motion to dispense with the reading of the June 27th Special Transportation Benefit Meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion on that?
so moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That Mike Urban now talks about revenue source discussion. All right?
Thank you. Good evening, President and Commissioners, in this particular instance. Transportation Benefit District, we're back. In March of 2023, the City Council held a public hearing, and then in April of 2023, the City Council adopted Ordinance 23-8, enacting a new municipal code creating the Transportation Benefit District. I was before you in June of 2023 to discuss funding sources. There were none at the time of adoption. Had a presentation at that time, so I wanted to give the commissioners another opportunity to discuss the funding source and provide any direction to staff to bring back any potential future actions.
Comments from staff and comments from our council on this, or the benefit district.
Mike, forgive me, we were looking at two different sources, if I recall correctly. One was raising a city sales tax, and the other was a fee through the, thank you, car tax. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Those seem to be the two that had the most discussion, yes.
Any other comments? It sounded like we were going in the direction where we talked about a district and how it's going to work. Nathan, did you have a comment? Or? Okay. Francis?
And I'm trying to pull back from March. So I was thinking that as part of our conversation, we were very much interested in this, but we felt that it needed to be around specific projects. So a project to come forward to us to then set the funding for the project, or am I misstating where our conversation was? I was thinking that we wanted to have a specific projects that we could justify it for the community in order to say this is what we're going to use the money for, as opposed to setting a fee and then figuring out the project afterward.
If that is the case, then I point back to capital improvement plan and the transportation improvement plan. There are several projects in there that these fees could be used for. And this is a yearly item that is updated, and I can bring and make the transportation piece, since that is directly related to the Transportation Benefit District, a part of the presentation as well, so you can see which projects are out there transportation-wise that would directly benefit for funding, whether it's in 2024 well, actually, we'll be starting the next CIP, TIP process next month. So whether it's for 2025 or the 6 years that follow that.
So would it, just as a follow-up, would it make sense for, well, with the CIP, identifying within the CIP projects, the ones that make sense to then use this funding for?
Yeah, for capital type projects, but as part of the Transportation Benefit District, the way it was set up, anything in the transportation system can benefit from these dollars, as long as we can draw that line to the transportation piece.
Megan?
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful to see what the projects are, but my collection is we need money to fix our roads. We need a regular source, and we hear from constituents on a regular basis that, some of our roads are in pretty poor shape and have desperate need of repair, and we need a revenue source for that. So what I was personally looking at was the idea of increase in sales tax, which I know is not going to be popular, but we need revenue to fix our roads.
Yes, and there are several road projects presented in the current CIP, TIP, and there'll be more added, especially if we know there's another funding source. We'd like to get a lot of these items in there in case we can find some grant dollars to produce these projects. TIB has been an excellent source, so we want to be able to keep leveraging that as well.
I have no doubt that we are lacking projects.
So is the council's opinion to wait till you hear the CIP and other projects and then take it on as a individual at that time? Nathan?
Yeah, just one more question. Now, I'm trying to remember, was there a discussion about the bypass in regards to this as well? Because I thought that was a project that was...
It's not a project that we have defined yet, but it's only a legislative priority. And the Pullman piece, the internal Pullman piece, these funds would probably qualify for that. But outside of the transportation area that was defined when the Transportation Benefit District was set up, which is the current city limits, it would need to focus on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Becky?
Forgive me. So I think what I'm struggling with is the dissolution of the Transportation Benefit District. My understanding, and I'm new to it, my understanding is that it was a specific project identified, and then once that project was done, the TBD dissolved. Is that correct? I mean, that's, I think, what I'm struggling a little bit here. Can you help me with that, Mike?
That's one of the ways it would dissolve, but one of the things that can be done too is ongoing projects in the Transportation Benefit District area to raise dollars for continuing projects instead of dissolving the TBD and then reestablishing the TBD every time there's a project. We can keep putting projects in there and making the scope wider and continue bringing projects specific to this. And I think from what I'm hearing across the discussion is a refresher of the transportation projects would probably be best in order for this group, so you can look and see just the volume of items, as Councilmember Guido mentioned, the way that the roads are, and we can add more to it if there's more funding, because that's what really kind of restricted our 2024 TIP portion of the capital improvement, is what funds are available to do the work. But if more funds become available, we can move more projects into immediacy. So if it benefits the board, I will work with the Public Works Department. We'll bring back a TIP presentation as to what's already been adopted.
Actually, for me, I'll speak for, obviously, clearly for myself, but I think the roads are in such a condition that understanding that ongoing nature, that works for me. I agree with Councilmember Guido on the sales tax. I very much appreciate the willingness to come back and explain it, but I feel like the roads are in such a condition that I kind of don't want to delay. I would love to move forward. That's my opinion.
Okay, Nathan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I remember I was probably the only one who said, let's look at the vehicle license fee fees because I like the idea of the sales tax because we're on the border of Moscow. But I remember you did so much work and you did so much work and research on it, and it really would be a drop in the bucket to do that. And so, you know, I'm very much about changing my mind if I'm wrong. And so I definitely feel that we do need to move forward on this for citizens, for the streets. It's just going to get worse. So I don't want to, but I think this is a need to rather than a want to.
You might want to repeat the fraction of what it was to increase the sales tax.
Sure. Legislation had changed from when I originally presented this to when it was adopted, but currently, as it stands going into this next legislative session, a 1/10 of 1% sales tax can be adopted by the board as per the RCW and the way that things were set up. There's an additional 0.2% available as well, which would need to be adopted by a vote of the community.
Francis, I think you had
Thank you. And I appreciate your discussions because I was stuck on the dissolution is within 30 days of completion of the transportation improvement, then the dissolution happens. So I was thinking you had to have a project in order to move forward on it. But in this context, I would definitely support the 1%. But we also, I feel that as a council, we need to clarify. So we're specific putting this toward road improvements. So this would be for additional road improvements on top of what we're currently looking at.
Would look more like adding additional projects for the transportation improvement piece of the existing project, where if we're directed, okay, 1/10 of 1% strictly on road repaving, we would come up with a work schedule for the dollars that we would expect to get for that, and then that would be over and above. And then we would work on a work schedule for that so it could be adopted by the city council as a transportation improvement project funded by the Transportation Benefit District if there's mutual agreement.
As you've probably been reading, Spokane has done this a number of times trying to fix their streets downtown, and they're still working at it. But they've been able to show some progress, too. And as I reported the last time, I've seen this happen as a member of the Transportation Benefit. We're seeing these kinds of projects right now. So TIB can help out in a number of ways as long as there's been some generation locally. So I've heard 1/10 of 1%, which was talked about. And you're going to have to come back with an ordinance for that, right? For the, okay?
Yeah, if it pleases the board, I would come back with a resolution and present that and how the 1/10 of 1% would work on that. And at the same time, I'll also bring back the mechanics of what a 2/10 and getting that on the ballot would look like so you can analyze that as well.
That would be helpful.
All right. Material change policy discussion. Sort of discussed, but I was wondering where we're at on that one.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. All transportation benefit districts are required to adopt a material change policy. As we were doing our research, like I said, this is a carryover from the 27th of June meeting. Most material change policies across the state are fairly of how we would consider laying out future transportation benefit district funded projects, strictly in the vein of road repairs. And that can always change year to year if there's a project that comes up, say the bypass piece through the city. If there's a funding mechanism, we can say, well, this year, this much is going to go to that. So there is some flexibility. We'll move forward.
And Mike, can you also provide an estimate of the 1/10 of what that would generate? And
yeah, I'll work with the finance director, an update from the previous slides that were provided under the current understanding of where our economy is.
Okay, great.
Okay, with that, I will adjourn the meeting of the Transportation Improvement Board, or Benefit Board. Got to get all my transportation boards correct here. And now convene the meeting of the City Council. And we are at resolution item number 3 on the agenda, temporary suspension of resolution R89-14. Mike Urban.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening again, Council. So during the business meeting agenda from the last meeting on October 12th, Council Member Benjamin proposed a concept, a public art installation in downtown Pullman on the new sections of the temporary flow wall. And the City Council discussed the need for action due to the Pullman's Arts Commission not have quorum to act currently. So we were tasked to come back with what is now before you as Resolution 54-23. And based on those discussions, we've captured the items for a one-time temporary suspension of the previous resolution specifically for this, and identifying the children attending the local schools and outlining the parameters around what can be used and what shouldn't be used for this time. So that's what is before you tonight. I do have some sample pictures that I'm going to follow through. I got real late in the process, but I'd like to be able to show that. But before I do, I just want to make sure I can answer any questions or clarify anything. Okay. Let me see if I can get my buddy Baker to help me out here.
Some of those pictures look quite interesting.
Yeah.
Schools came up with.
Yeah, so I have a few here I can display that'll help out.
And again,
There's my guy.
they were proposed for the flood walls. And in the past, we've actually, as Francis mentioned, we've actually had some artwork on the blades of the snowplows too from time to time. I've seen that in other communities. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. And I did try to get this out to council ahead of the meeting, but for the benefit of the community as well to follow along. These came in over the weekend. So here is a sample that we received, marked PCM. There's two pages of two to this one. So this is their proposal one. As you can see, the Palouse Prairie, and then proposal two, there's some notes in here to capture the history of the Palouse. And I think these are more, these aren't words that they expect to put on there, but just kind of a description discussed very quickly on there. That's their proposal number two. Is there any discussion on either one of these before I close it? Because I'm afraid of getting it back up.
If I can, and so I provided to the schools, the list and guidelines that we had. A couple of schools did submit things that were outside the guidelines, so that's one thing. So for example, this one has a tractor in it, which would be outside of the guidelines. And so as a council, is this a problem? And one others for the Montessori school did also include another tractor. And so is that, did we want to include farm implements in the list or not, would be the question. Of the pictures that Mike will show, we did get 13 proposals from 6 different schools. 2 schools didn't submit, but they're interested in submitting, but because of the gas shutoff and school not being in session, they weren't able to get stuff to us. And then one school, we had a bad email address, and so by the time they got contacted with the right email address, it was outside of time. So there's 2 schools that also would like to submit, and it's whether, and so part of it is whether whether farm implements want to be included, and then whether we want to see those other schools' proposals, or whether, as long as they follow the guidelines, it's okay.
Sure. And I just checked with the city attorney to confirm what I'm about to say. And according to the guidelines, there are no man-made structures allowed, but a farm implement we wouldn't consider a structure. But we don't want to go against the spirit of what is trying to be accomplished here with what was originally presented. So I just wanted to pass that along.
Okay, Nathan?
Yeah, I think farm implement honors our history, our roots. I think it's very appropriate, in my opinion.
I would only suggest probably leave off the branding like John Deere and some others.
No words.
Otherwise there'll be some, race to get commercial going here. Yeah. Becky.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Weller. And two, I think as long as they're following the guidelines, whenever the schools can get those in, would be great. And I'm just taken by this idea and the art. It's between the Girl Scouts today, the Daisy Scouts, and this. I'd like to make a motion that we do every council meeting, we have some art or some presentation from Girl Scouts, just a suggestion.
Somebody is sold all the way, okay.
Okay. If it pleases the council, I'll move on to the next one. I got about 6 of these.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
No, there's quite a few.
No. Okay, here comes the next one, coming out of Jefferson. Again, this kind of a concept where they're talking about some colors here and some other items. Let me just pop down because I think there was some more. Here we go.
Those are fish.
Okay, so these 2 different ones.
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
2 different ones.
So here's the first one, and just kind of a concept there. You can see the hills and the sky. They're talking about colors. They're talking about the hands in there in the shape of the sun. And then I've learned these are fish. So some blues and greens under a background. So this is a proposal out of Jefferson. Okay. Any questions on this, or I can move on to the next one? Okay, here we go. So the next one I have here is out of Kamiak. And it was sent to me this way, and it looks very similar to the one that we just saw. So I don't know what to add, but I wanted to make sure.
So it must have been available easily.
The art, the teacher that teaches art teaches at both of these schools.
Oh.
So that's the reason why you have similar ones that are coming in from 2 different schools.
I can't tell the difference in the hands, however. It looked like the same.
Okay, I'll move on past this one. And we've already seen PCM 1. Here's PCM on the second. And there's, I think, 2 or 3 here. So there's proposal 1, capture the foods and catch and grow and eat, come from the land. And then number 4, again, here's the second farm implement that was previously discussed, working the animals and being active. Those are the 2 on this one. Okay. And then I have 2 from Pullman Christian. Wish this jumped out better. Sorry, Pullman Christian. This, when you look at it on your email, it really jumps off the page. So you can see some of our local flora and fauna. Okay, there's only 1 page on that one. Pullman Christian 2. Again, a little bit of the same there, fox, some bird. Okay.
Looks like blue sky, too.
Yeah. Okay, got 2 more here. We got high school. And this one is kind of looks like 3 panels. So there's the first one up there with the fish, and then some more here kind of in the middle. And then the last one here, some more of the fauna. Oh, I'm sorry, flora. Okay, and 1 more. Sunnyside Elementary, and they have the sunflower there with some rolling hills.
Okay, I didn't hear any objections to the art.
Okay.
What we do need to do is, yes, Megan?
I guess this is more of a process question. So is the idea that we're being asked to accept these and then they would all be used, or are we picking and choosing, or what exactly is the process?
I think right now the process is passing the resolution to allow the one-time, and these are some sample artworks that would meet the criteria. And there is a section in the resolution, please bear with me while I find it, where It talks about the activities and processes and policies, procedures outlined are dependent on a quorum of the Arts Commission, and since there isn't one at this time, and because it's the best interest of the city council would act as that, in that place, if there's any here on the, towards the end, under the no people, no religious iconography. Be it further resolved that if necessary for decision-making purposes, the city council for the city of Pullman can act in place of the Pullman Art Commission for this one-time art in public places project.
So I understand that's what we're being asked of tonight, but I guess I do have some questions about the next step in terms of, how that process, if we're acting as the Arts Commission, and I'm looking at you, Francis, because this was kind of your vision.
Well, I brought it for the council, it's for the council to make that. So we have these proposals that have come in, and obviously there was a short period of time from our last meeting to this meeting, and they really, the schools are very excited to participate in this, and they were rushed to do it, and the power outage didn't help anything in the midst of things for them, for the gas. So I guess the question would be to the council of, as long as they do the artwork following these guidelines, are we okay? Or do we want them to submit an actual art project that we approve? And that I would look to the council. We have these that are proposed. We have 2 schools that want to get stuff in also.
First of all, we need to know how many panels we have to paint, so we know what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So
So if we talk logistics, the boards do have 2 sides, so they could, in that context, paint on both sides. The panels are, so these are the replacement. So we have currently panels on the flood wall. There's so many panels that that the city is replacing because over time we need to replace them. So these are the new ones, are the ones that we're hoping for them to paint for. And then and most likely timing wise, and part of it depends on the weather and how quickly the panels need to go up. It might be that the old panels go up and then these go in and replace the old ones, or if these are done in time, they would drop into place as everything's getting put up.
And thank you for bringing that up. I would like to do a quick note in here, the benefit of the audience and the watching audience. Hi, Jenna. It says in here, be it further resolved that this one-time art in public places project is secondary to the greater need of flood protection for the city of Pullman, and if this one-time art in public places project cannot be completed for timely deployment due to weather conditions, the deployment of the downtown Pullman flood wall will take place regardless.
Correct. And so these are new panels, so we could technically put up the old flood wall and then swap them out as panels are available.
But we need to approve this resolution. That's primarily the main purpose.
We do, but we can use all of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm good.
So we're all good for what we've seen.
Then I'd like to.
And there's still more, a couple more you said.
Yes, and so the question is, do you want to see them? And because we can bring those back at a future meeting or not.
I'm fine with, as long as they're following the requirements and we've clarified that farm implements are fine. Yeah, and that helped answer my question about being able to just use all of them. Okay.
And I would, from an administrative standpoint on this, if this is going to be the path going forward, I think I'll still ask for the samples that they want to, and as I receive those, push them forward to the council. That way we make sure they meet the requirements before everybody puts the work in.
Mm-hmm. Nathan.
Just real quick, just credit where credit's due. Thank you so much for this. Yeah.
And we really need to first go to Art Garrow, our staff, because he's the one, Art and I talked about this last spring, but he's the one that really brought this back and said, hey, we have this opportunity to do it now. So he initiated it, so he really needs the credit. I just had the opportunity to be able to bring his initiation here to the council.
Okay. Do I hear a motion on the resolution?
Move to adopt Resolution R-54-23.
And Thad, do you want to read it?
Sorry. Resolution R-54-23, a temporary suspension of Resolution R-89-14, a resolution adopting policies and procedures for art in public places, and adopting Resolution R-54-23 for the one-time purpose of allowing for art in public places.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, council.
Next, under new business, is there any new business to come before the council tonight? Seeing none, the next part comes this way. City Council will adjourn for an executive session pursuant to consider the selection of site or acquisition of real estate or lease or purchase when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of an increased price. To consider the minimum price that a real estate will be offered for sale or lease when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of a decreased price, provided final act of selling or leasing public property shall be taken in a meeting open to the public. And while the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act do not apply to discussions relating to the interpretation or application of labor agreements, or that portion of that meeting during which the governing body is planning or adopting the strategy or position to be taken during the course of any collective bargaining, professional negotiations, or grievance mediation proceedings, or reviewing the proposals made during the course of negotiations or proceedings, the City Council is announcing its intention to discuss such matters in executive session. The executive session is expected to last about 15 minutes. If it becomes necessary to extend that, we will announce that. At this point, we will now take a 5-minute break and adjourn to an executive session that will start at 8:04. 8:40, excuse me. Yeah, 8:40. It's okay. 8:40 it is.
like their Bailey, you know? So, but yeah, he does so much work for them. It's astounding. And really, like, I have like a really good relationship with him, so I'm very grateful. But, yeah, what I do with city council is like, most of these people serve on boards for the city, so I interact with them typically, but I'll, WC is brought up like every meeting. In my job is to like, talk to them and be like, good morning.
The executive session is extended 5 minutes to 9 p.m. Pullman City Council extends the executive session for 3 minutes at 9 p.m., 3 minutes. We're back.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're adjourned.